and including, most people don't know this, including your mother's maiden name, the color of your first car, the name of your first pet, whatever the knowledge-based authentication question the banks have, right? So there is no protection if they are able to get the full account information, they essentially become you, right? Unless your bank does something like biometrics authentication, which US banks don't do. And that kind of full account information goes about 200 to 300 per account, depending on how deeper the pocket is, the account, right? So if you're a private banking customer, probably go for more than that. And think about it, on average, $250 per account for those attackers. How many account numbers do they have to get before they can retire? Right? So this is somebody's retirement plan. Okay, so they are in this they're in this really for profit, and then there are a lot of things like eBay account is up for sale, even credentials for online gaming site like World of Warcraft is also up for sale as well. You can find those. So basically, these is talk about the high-level things of how that highlights application security, because increased attack surface, meaning that you can attack client side as well, and also the server side, because AJAX programming exposes more the interfaces on the server side, so it gives you more points for attack, right? And this is well known, right? And developing Web 2.0 application in a secure way is very difficult, because you have asynchronous logic you have to deal with. You have, whatever the client side, you cannot have control, but you rely on client side to do a lot of computing. So the testing is really more difficult. So traditional trust model is broken. Basically, traditionally, you trust the client to do things for you, and now you cannot do that. So this is how are we doing on time? Because we wasted a lot of time on the, what? We're 10:35, okay, so we're supposed to finish in 10 minutes. I can do this, okay. So this is just a message. Security, because of the trend of adopting consumer technologies and using Web 2.0 applications is more and more pervasive in enterprises. Security, application security needs to be baked in rather than painted on. So this is a really old graph that I took from a 1970s software engineering textbook. This is, I don't know if you guys have seen this. This is written by Casper Jones, right? And what he says was, I don't know if you can see, there's a green graph that has a huge bubble in the front and tapers off. And that the x-axis are development, I think unit testing, function testing, field test, and post-release. So this is about the software development lifecycle. He didn't have the design phase in there, but that's starting from development. The green line says about 85% of all flaws, security flaws, come up through development, okay? 85%, and there's a little bit in the testing. And the yellow line says how much vulnerability you actually fix in the different development lifecycle, right? And turns out very little fixed in development, a little bit more in unit testing, a little bit more in field test, and that probably more is discovered between post-release and field test. And when you assume this shape of the yellow line, you're looking at this red line as the cost of fixing vulnerabilities, meaning that the more you push back into the post-development life cycle, the more you're paying, okay, to actually fixing it. And this is very telling, right? What you can do is take this graph and you change the shape of if you understand the relationship between the yellow line and the cost line, which is red, you can change the shape of the yellow line. Look at if I fix more things in the beginning, how that will affect the shape of the red line. You'll see the red line taping off. And that's actually a research that I'm doing today is trying to survey different companies and deduce a mathematical equation, if I can, between the yellow line and the red line. So no reason, I don't have to go through it. The number one reason is just to fix it before somebody else finds it and gets your user data. And so this is a life cycle graph that we often use when we go talk to different companies. And it's still a fairly coarse division of life cycles, but it starts from design and architecture and develop and QA test and operations. So the message is that operations has to be part of the application lifecycle, because a lot of people talking about secure development lifecycle, they stop at release. When I release the software, I'm done. But you're not done. Right? Either you or your customer have to deal with the operation side of what to do with vulnerabilities. So for each of these cycles, we have different recommendations of what to do. So the first, for the design, you have to do design reviews. No, threat modeling, design review. I'm not going to go through this. You can look at on the slides. There's a little bit more detailed recommendation there. And for development, it's very important to do code review. Very important to have code analysis tools, such as source code analysis tools, to help you understand what vulnerabilities you may have. If you could catch them as they arise, as the developers typing and as they arise, it's a lot cheaper. In my, one of my customers has a very startling figure. It's a networking equipment vendor. So they sell an equipment, and if they find something post-release, they have to send an engineer out to fix and install the patch. That's $30,000 per bug for them, $30,000. If they find something in testing, before they send it over to the customer, it's $3,000 per bug. If it's during development, it's $500 per bug. So it's $500 versus $30,000. So it's no-brainer. But this is a pretty one-sided figure. What this doesn't tell you is the 5 minutes. Okay. What this doesn't tell you is the loss of opportunity cost. Like developers have to spend time on this versus pushing the code out the door. So there's a little bit of loss of opportunity cost, which most people don't take into account. So we should look at that as well. Anyway, so this is specific code development guidelines. Since you're all technical people, you don't need me to tell you that. And that's about testing, using fuzzers, using fault injection, using both automatic code scanning tools as well as manual testing, manual penetration testing. And post-release, once this application is up running, what should you do? You're no longer in development mode, right? You're in operation and maintenance mode. If it's a web application, consider using a web application firewall if it is a web application, because it allows you time to react to vulnerabilities that may arise, right? I have a customer who did a code scanning on the existing web application and found 30,000 vulnerabilities. 30,000, right? And he's like, oh my God, what do I do? Where do I even start fixing it? And the approach they decide to take is put a web application firewall in front of this application and basically just allow all the known good inputs, everything else they block. Right? So that's how they begin to attack this problem. Eventually they need to fix these vulnerabilities, but if you only have, I don't know, you have a few days, you have to get this blocked, that's the way to go. I'm sorry?